And we're live. Okay, guys, good morning. Thanks so much for showing up. I know it's a Sunday morning and we have a couple interesting topics this morning. So what we really want to cover, just to lay it out first, is conscious relating and conscious relationship, and what is it? And how is it different from a lot of the relationships many of us grew up in or saw or may even be in currently? Number two, since given this month's challenge is challenging, we're going to talk about how to have a hard conversation. And there's an art and a little bit of a science to this. And then we're going to finish with some information on just an overview of what sacred sexuality is and how we can use our sexuality, why we're particularly talking about desires. Stefanos Sifandos, if any of you guys know him, he's our speaker for the month, and he's going to come in and really nail this in a couple of weeks. So the tail end will be just a little bit lighter. I'm going to start with showing you guys, anybody not know this game? Jenga. Everybody get this? Anybody played this? Raise your hand if you've played this before. Okay, pretty much everybody. If you haven't, here's the gist. You start off with a full brick of pieces, and you have to take one out and put it on top, and take one out and put it on top until someone topples it over. And so why start off showing you that? We all, no matter how enlightened you think you are, no matter how much work you've done, no matter how much therapy and men's work and how conscious you believe you are, we enter relationship with the bottom part of the Jenga pieces missing already. We're already coming in with, I had this from my mom, this from my dad, this happened in junior high, this is when I got beat up in high school. So we come in with a foundation that's a little bit janky, right? And that's all of us. Michael Gay and Dewey Freeman both say we get wounded in relationships, so we have to heal in relationship. How many of you guys have gone through a breakup, gotten divorced, gone to therapy for a couple months and been like, fuck yeah, I've totally fixed, I have no issues, I'm never going to be triggered again. And then 2 weeks into a relationship, you're like, I was just wasted fucking 6 months in therapy. Here I am pissed, or here I am triggered as shit. I will be the first one to put my hand up. And I'll share with you this maybe 4 or 5 days ago. I was at my partner's house, and she has what is my nemesis, a 3-foot couch. Why someone would buy a 3-foot couch, I do not know. And I've just left this up to the mystery of the feminine. I was sitting on this couch, and I was about to tell her something that was important about my day, or something that just happened on a podcast. I really wanted to share this story. And she tried to sit on the 3-foot couch with me. And it ended up being she had to maneuver and try to squeeze in, because who the fuck has a 3-foot couch? But that's a different conversation. And her trying to get in and sit with me became the focal point of what was happening, and not my story. And for about 15 seconds after she sat, I just raged on her couch. I was like, I fucking hate your couch. If I could do anything, I would take this couch outside. I would burn it. I would shoot it. I would go buy a normal human-sized couch. And she kind of just stared at me like, wow, that's a really intense reaction for my couch. And I took a breath and was like, wow, that was a really intense reaction for a couch. What was going on? And what was going on was that I felt like my story, which was really important to me, was not important. Right? So if I actually think of what was really going on, do I hate her couch? No, I don't really give a fuck about her couch. I was triggered in that moment because I felt disregarded. And so I said to her after the breath, after wow, man, I just teed off on a couch. It's like, you know what just happened? I just felt completely disregarded by the fact that my story got co-opted by the couch. And so what did I actually talk to her in that moment about? The bottom of the Jenga board, right? Not the top of the Jenga board, not the branch, the root of what actually happened. So she then got to say, wow, I'm sorry. I can totally see how that happened. I didn't mean to disregard you. Please tell me your story. That right there, guys, is an example of conscious relating. It's no deeper than that, no more intense than that. That's an example of conscious relating. What would have happened in my marriage, which was 5 years ago, I would have fucking been pissed all day about the couch. And I would have probably picked a fight and been like, you know what? I don't want to have this conversation, and shut down and walked away because I didn't know what the root was. And I didn't know that a root was actually a thing. I just was focusing on the branches. How many of you have been in relationships where you're arguing about the same stuff, but you're not really arguing about anything? Anybody found themselves in that situation? Yeah, everybody put your damn hand up. Right? Or you're how many minutes into an argument and you're literally like, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. But we're in this cycle. Yep. Right? That's an unconscious relationship or an unconscious piece of a relationship. We have an opportunity in relationship to go back to the bottom of the Jenga board. And the bottom of the Jenga board isn't my partner's couch. It isn't what happened today. It's holy shit. You know where else I felt disregarded? My entire childhood. When I would bring things to my parents that were exciting to me and they'd ignore me. Okay, those missing Jenga pieces, they will go with me to every relationship I have. So if I break up with my partner over her couch and be like, man, glad we got that out of the way, and I go start dating someone else 6 months from now, I guarantee you something about being disregarded will come up and I'll be like, man, that's crazy. I just keep dating women who disregard me. As opposed to actually now saying, wow, in this relationship, I have an opportunity, you have an opportunity to fill in those pieces and make them whole so that every relationship you go into more whole. Every relationship you have, whether it's with your kids, your boss, your coworker, your employee, your girlfriend, your spouse, your boyfriend, whoever the fuck it is. Does this all make sense? Yeah, nod if this makes sense. Okay. So the opportunity for a conscious relationship is this. We, whoever you're in relationship with, get to use our relationship or parts of our relationship to, one, heal from however we've been wounded in our past, to fill in the cracks in the foundation, and then two, to build on top of that something that's sustainable. Does that make sense? Because this is the whole talk in a nutshell. Everything else builds on that. Does that make sense? Like, give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. We have an opportunity to fill in the cracks in our foundation and build something sustainable. Think about this. If we hadn't had that conversation, Katie and I, my partner and I, about her couch or what happened to me on the couch, and then that happened again 3 weeks later, and I was like, you know what? Just doesn't fucking listen to me. And then it happens again 3 weeks later. What's going to end up happening to this relationship? I'm going to walk out and be like, I'm just completely disregarded in this relationship. And she's going to go, I have no idea what happened. You never voice anything. Sometimes I get it. You hate my couch. Let's get a new couch. Or what happens? We buy a new couch, but we still don't work on the foundational piece. So that's huge. Now, I'll also add that yesterday she and I had a 3-hour relationship conversation. Not my favorite thing in the world to go. How did you get to sorry. Let me just take a how did you get to the foundational piece? Beautiful. Let me answer that, Henry, in this next part. The 3-hour conversation yesterday was about the foundational pieces. And so to answer your specific question, I had to go, okay, this probably isn't about the couch. Does everybody know what it means to be triggered? Right? When I'm triggered, my reaction doesn't match the stimulus. It's above the stimulus. Here, maybe there's a better way for me to say that. If we're walking down the aisle in Trader Joe's and someone rubs their card against me and I shoot them, I was triggered. If someone rubs their card against me and I was like, oh, don't worry, it's a small aisle. That's a normal reaction, right? So my partner's sitting on the couch and me seeing red and going from 0 to 120 and thinking about burning the thing, that's a little bit of an overblown reaction. Anytime you have an overblown reaction, it is a golden opportunity to look at, okay, this isn't about the branch. It makes sense when I'm speaking about root and branch here. There's something else going on. So that's why you hear so often, and I know it can be a frustrating thing to hear in the like coaching, spirituality, conscious world, is it's an invitation to look at what's going on, right? It's an invitation. So I had to have enough self-awareness to go, wow, I just raged on a couch. That's probably not about the couch. That's about me. Henry, does this make sense? So then the invitation was, what is this about? Okay, let me start out. Let me take a breath. Let me separate from the situation. Or let me at least say to her, hey, I think I just got really fucking triggered. Wow, how do I feel? I feel hot, angry, pissed. How do I feel under that? Disregarded. Oh, okay. Then this is about being disregarded. Henry, does that help? And you feel free to unmute yourself. So does it come down to that brief moment of self-awareness within the reaction? Tom, it does. And or oftentimes, and I'll be dead honest with you guys, it happens to me all the time. I catch it later. Right? My processing time went from like 2 weeks to a week to 5 days to 3 days to 2 days to often sometimes 10 minutes now, where I'll be like, wow, nope, I'm just fucking angry. Nope, it is about, you know what? It is about the damn couch. Why would someone buy that couch? And then 10 minutes later, be like, hey, I think I just fucked up. And it's not about the couch, it's about me. So it's about being able to take that breath and then tap back into what's true for you. This all making sense. Now, so we've talked about the foundational pieces, right? I have abandonment issues. My ex-wife walked out. Like those are my big things. So now I need to know I'm going to be triggered around that shit. And she can help me. Partner can help me. Your partners can help you by doing this, by giving you positive reps. Every time I go to her and say, hey, I think this may make you leave. And she goes, I'm not leaving. That's a positive rep that rewires my brain that says everybody leaves. At some point, everybody leaves. Right? That's my foundational belief. And that's my core belief about relationship. She's helping me rewrite that belief rep after rep after rep. But she has to know that. That's why we call it conscious. So you guys have to tap into what is your core, what are your core wounds in relationship? Brad, I think, just wrote feeling diminished and belittled. Right? So let's take a minute right now. If you have a pen and paper, just take 1 minute and think. And this isn't right or wrong, guys. This isn't like you're not going to get quizzed on this. What are some of your core relational wounds? Think back to your childhood. Think back to your relationship to your parents. Think back to the thing that, like, man, everybody, this is what pisses me off when people do X. All right, you got 60 seconds. Just write those out. Yeah, and if you feel like it, throw it in the chat. I appreciate that, Robbie. You guys are going to realize, holy shit, I'm not the only one who feels abandoned, rejected, unseen, unworthy, unheard, abused, manipulated, diminished, belittled. Right? Look, read this, guys. Abandoned, did something wrong. Whew. Critique, Getting in trouble, being in trouble was a huge one. It's a huge one for a lot of men. Inadequate, not good enough. Abandonment, worthlessness, lack of integrity. No one cares as much as I do. Beautiful. This is really amazing, guys. Being unseen, not heard, right? Feelings don't matter. Emotions don't have space. Unheard, unwanted. No one chooses me. That's a huge one. Huge one for women too. Neglected. Awesome. I really, really appreciate you guys throwing these in here. I'm too much, right, Chad? So much, all of the above, Steve. Yeah, exactly. Right. And notice that there's a pattern. Notice that there so many of them are similar. These core wounds are very much like, what do humans need to be okay in the world? They need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to be validated. Never enough. So much of this comes down to these two ideas, especially for guys. Not enoughness, too muchness. Right? How many of us don't feel like we measure up in a relationship, or we take a relationship wound as like, I'm just not enough. I'm just not enough. I'm just not enough. Or God, I'm too much. So this was one of the reasons I started Man Uncivilized and made the very first tenet be unapologetically male, was because 2 years ago, it was like, guys, no one cares. Sit down, shut up, step back. I was like, fuck that. We are also deserve to be seen and heard. This is amazing. Okay. Now let's talk about the seed of, those are the core wounds, guys. Don't let me jump ahead. Those are the cores. So take a look at the list and take a look at your list. And now ask yourself, what's the opposite? Whatever it is, if I'm not heard, that's my core wound, is that no one listened to me as a kid. So now I need to be heard. So now I have an opportunity in my relationship, no matter where I am, in the beginning stages of it, 30 years into a marriage, to say to my partner, when I am unheard, when I feel unheard, it's going to trigger me. And when it triggers me, it's going to make me act out. And I want to take full responsibility for this, but I'm also going to ask for your help. Think of the level of consciousness in that one conversation compared to a normal, quote, relationship, where we're just arguing about the branch, where we're just making decisions. I'm not going to get my core needs met ever. So I'm going to get them met sideways. Someone needs to get muted. All right, there we go. Nigel, welcome. Does that make sense? You guys have heard me say this 1,000 times. Everything that we suppress comes out sideways. So if I'm not getting a need met in my relationship, and I'm like, fuck it, I don't need to get that need met, I'll get it met some other way. My old coach, Kobe Kozlowski, used to say, look at a driveway and see the piece of weed that's growing up through the middle of concrete. That's your needs getting met sideways. So we take these core wounds, guys, and we know about them. We share them with our partners. Early on in my relationship, I was like, hey, abandonment issues. What's going to be really important for me is that every time we sit down to have a talk, you open with, I'm okay and I'm not leaving. That's it. Then my nervous system's like, oh, we can talk about taxes. We can talk about our sex life. We can talk about movies that you want to watch. Because if you don't open with that and you just say, hey, we really need to have a chat tonight, I'm fully in defense mode. Like, okay, she's leaving. This is it. We got to prepare ourselves. Yes. What needs are healthy? What needs are healthy to get met sideways? Gary, I'm going to actually hold that thought. Gary, I'd love to unmute you when we talk about something at the end and dive into that. Okay, so you guys get that, right? That's the core. Now, here's why we have to have hard conversations. What is the number one killer of relationships? Someone write it in the chat. Number one. If you know the Gottmans, there's the four horsemen. What's the number one horseman? No communication, selfishness, contempt, lack of communication, ambivalence, lack of communication, dishonesty, money, resentment, stonewalling, loss of trust. Jeff Smith and Tom Cole, you win the prize. So all of these guys are completely legit, but the number one killer of relationship is resentment. Think about that. It's not money issues. It's not infidelity. It's not sexuality. It's not it's not religion. It's not raising kids. Those are the big pieces, but it's the resentment. Think about this. Anybody run? Anybody do a sport that involves your thighs rubbing together? Think about one grain of sand that gets popped in your jock. One teeny little grain of sand. I didn't really feel hurt in that last conversation. There's the grain of sand. I can run a mile with that thing. Not a worry. Not a big deal. I can go 3 months with that in our relationship. What happens a year from now? My fucking balls are raw and I want out. Just from that tiny seed. Didn't take her cheating on me, stealing my money, not talking, raising my kids Jewish, even though I'm Catholic, whatever. It's resentment. Thus why we come up to the branches and we don't neglect the branches as well. Thus why I actually had that conversation with Katie on my couch, on her couch, rather than just being like, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. I do not want resentment in my relationship at all, which leads us into part 2 of this conversation. How do you have a conversation? How do you have a hard conversation? Who loves hard conversations? Dave Boyd. All the Marines. I love it. I do not. They're just not my best friend. I would love to be out doing other shit than having hard relationship conversations. But number one, this is how I own the fact that I need to have them. And as the leader of a relationship, I'm going to bring them up. I have the right. I have permission. Everybody get that? So do you. Just oftentimes the collective, the civilized relational world is like the male's not allowed to have issues. We're not allowed to bring shit up. The relationship realm is the feminine realm. Resentment goes both ways. So this is how we have a hard conversation. You may want to write this down. Number one, know your audience. Set and setting. Everybody heard about set and setting, most likely around psychedelics. It's the exact same thing with a hard conversation. Do you need to poop? Have you eaten? Have you gotten a good night's sleep? Are your kids screaming in the background? Is your partner starving, angry, hungry, etc.? Know your set and setting. You guys, he doesn't mind me telling you this, but it stays on this call. You guys all know Jeremy Goldberg, right? Long distance love bombs. I love his girlfriend, Kendra, to death. She is a genius, and he's told me this, at finding the times just when his eyes are about to close at night and he's just about to fall asleep, and he'll hear, hey. And he knows he's fucked. He knows the next hour is going to be like, okay. Yeah, I think there's something like in like 4th grade, they pull all the girls aside and they're like, find the perfect time, right when he's about to fall asleep. Like, hey. So know your timing. Number 2, ask your partner if they're open to having a conversation. Yeah, Garrett. Yeah, right. It's like the little alarm that goes off inside of them. He seems happy and content. I have a question. So literally ask them this. Hey, do you have space for a conversation right now? It's that simple, guys. Hey, do you have space for a conversation right now? How do we get them on board with set and setting? Ryan, some of it may not be them getting on board. It's just going to be timing.
I think my question is more of if we bring the set and setting, how does Jeremy get his girl to not go, hey,
It's
right
a
as
great
the eyes
question.
close?
Up till now, from the messages I got yesterday, he doesn't. He just learns to take a breath and goes, okay, this is that. Or he says, hey, do you know what? Now actually isn't a good time. I'm just about to fall asleep. And if he can look at her and go, okay, she's not sleeping tonight. This is going to be a disaster. I'll step up and have a conversation when I don't want to. But you also have the right to say, like, you know what? You know what I need to do? I need to eat. Like, I can't have this before I eat. Yeah, I asked for any closing arguments. Good. Yeah, I found, can I speak about it another time? Yep. Stepping up, being part of the mountain. I think it's less being part of the mountain, Steve, and just saying, like, choose your battles. Is it going to be a bigger battle to not have this conversation now? And can you get yourself in a state? If I have to take a shit, I haven't eaten, and I haven't slept last night, we are not having a conversation. Right? If I just got off the phone and found out something bad happened with my business, I'm just going to say, hey, I love you. I want to be present for this conversation. I'm just not present right now. Either give me 10 minutes to go outside and do some push-ups and breathe some fresh air, and I'll come back in and try. Or, hey, I'm an autonomous human. I know myself. Now's not a good time. Seems like we need to be careful so set and setting doesn't become an excuse to avoid the conversation. Yes, this is about honesty. There is no perfect time, right? How many of you have had to make a tough phone call? And then I don't know if you guys used to do this. I still do it. I'll like set a timer. Like, okay, and when that timer goes off, you're making that fucking phone call. I don't care what else is going on with you. All right, so set and setting. This question, do you have space? I love space as a question. Like, do you have the space for a conversation? Do you have the bandwidth? Part one. Part two, reassure them. How many of us, I mean, it's like a joke in this in the collective, right? Of, we need to have a talk tonight. How many of you guys hear that and are like, perfect, tonight's going to be great. I'm calm. My nervous system's great. We need to have a talk tonight. Terrible, right? Terrible. This is just a completely inappropriate story, but anybody ever gotten STI tested? I have. And I remember the fucking place at like 4:49 on a Friday called me and were like, you got to call us. And then they hung up. And I called them back and no one answered. And then I had to wait like all weekend. And then I called them on Monday and they're like, oh, your test results were negative. I was like, you motherfuckers, don't do that. So reassure your partner. So, hey, do you have space for this conversation? Awesome. Just so you know, I love you. Everything's great. I'm not going anywhere. Talk to their core wound. I just need to be heard. I just need you to hear me out on this. I want to open a dialogue with you, right? Think of how, just those three, think of how different a conversation is going to be. Set and setting, reassurance. Number three, speak about your experience. I statements. Yesterday, when you came and sat on the couch, this has nothing to do with you. I'm completely owning this. I felt disregarded. I felt diminished. I felt ignored. Again, it's not you. I'm not saying this is your fault. I'm owning this. Exactly, Steve. We're not blame. There's zero blame. Blame is a victim game. We don't do that. I felt. Give them then the opportunity to speak with you. This is where there isn't a game plan. This is where it's, hey, I just need to tell you how I feel. Listen to what they have to say. Here's just a little asterisk. Be very careful about not getting defensive if they reply like, well, that's some shit you have to work on. Or if they get defensive. Great question, Paul, right? You get to continually own it. Yet you get to say, I know this is all about me. Yet here's that magic word. And I didn't go to Landmark. People keep asking me if I went to Landmark because I love this word. Enroll them. Enroll them. Hey, this is all about me. So what I would love though, is when these things come up, if I'm in the middle of a story, if you could maybe wait to sit on the couch till I'm done, or just tell me, hey, let me sit on the couch until I'm done. Same thing, Steve. If they take responsibility, you are the one leading this conversation, right? So you may have to say to your partner, it's not about how you sat on the couch. It's about how I felt like this as a kid. So I'm going to keep taking responsibility. Now, if they did something that's triggering, like a biggie, you can say, yeah, please don't do that. Please don't interrupt me in the middle of a story. It makes me feel X. We're going to keep coming back to it makes me feel X. And guys, this is a 7-minute blurb on how to have a conscious conversation. Read Nonviolent Communication, that book. Like, dive into this stuff. Okay. Reflect back what they say to you. So she's like, wow, or ask for a reflection. Are you hearing me? If you would, tell me, if you wouldn't mind telling me what you feel when I said that. Well, it feels like you get disregarded when I sit on the couch. Thank you. Reflect, mirror, reassure. Beautiful. Now, here's where we go. This is the hard part for a lot of us. Here's what I would love from you. You're an adult. You're in a relationship. You get to ask for shit. You have needs. I would love it if next time X, Y, and Z. This is hard for us. Anybody done my blindfold exercise? George, you've done it, right? Yeah. In all my workshops, I blindfold people and make them walk them around and be led by somebody else. And then at the halfway point, they have to take the blindfold off and ask for something that would have made the experience better. And most people are like, nothing. But there's always something. So here's where you get to ask, you get to lead them into better being in relationship with you. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Good. And guys, this can be messy. There is people like, how do I have a perfect conversation? Good luck being with humans. It's going to be a little bit messy. It's okay. Hold space for their reaction. Remember, if I tell my partner, when you sit on the couch, it makes me feel diminished, and she blows up and explodes, that's not my responsibility. That's for me to say, hey, let's bring this back. Take a breath. I'm not attacking you. I'm talking about me. How do we decipher between needs our partner should help with and needs we need to own? We need to own all of them, Jamie, and we get to ask for whatever ones you want to be assisted with. That is your partnership, right? That is it's up to you. Which ones do you want help with? And it should be, in my opinion, that seriously, anybody in relationship should have their own personal therapist and a group relational therapist or a couples therapist. There's shit we got to own on our own. That's a little bit more of a nuanced conversation. Okay, back to the how do we. You get to ask for what you need. You get to also then ask them, is there anything else you need to hear about from me to fully understand this situation? That makes sense? Here's what I would love. I would love it if when you sat on the couch, you just made sure it wasn't in the middle of a story. Is there anything else you need to hear from me? Oh, you want to know when the last time this happened was in my last relationship. Okay, cool. I'll share that with you. You want to know when that happened when I was a kid. Okay, I'll share that with you. Or they may say nothing. Here is what most of us, here's the thing that so many of us leave off, is this part of the conversation. Do you feel complete? I ask my partner this all the time in a conversation before we jump to like, hey, do you want to go hiking? Or we've lost our track or we're something else. It's like, wait a minute. Is that conversation complete? Is there anything else you want to hear from me? Me check in. Is there anything else I want to say? That land? Yeah. What is not being said? Beautiful. Does this all make sense, guys? This is really, this will save you so much bullshit. This will save you fighting about stuff you don't give a fuck about. This will turn you, Jeremy talked about this on the sobriety class on Thursdays. Like, I, from 3 years ago, would hate my current relationship if I saw it on paper because we don't fight. We have to take deep breaths. We have to go outside. We have to be like, fuck, I want to murder her. But we don't come in and argue about the dishes when what we're really arguing about is being seen and heard. I love that, Gordon, Robbie, you wrote the word relaxed. We all go into fight or flight, guys. When you are triggered, you go into fight or flight. I am not a physiologist. The part of your brain that makes decisions, whichever that is, someone that probably knows it, like hippocampus or whatever, it shuts off when we're triggered. Dave, you know this? It's like every cop probably knows, like decision making shut off when triggered. Prefrontal cortex. Thank you. It's like imagine trying to, any of the cops know this or anybody in the military knows this. Imagine having to do 50 burpees as hard as you can and then be like, okay, tell me about your relationship. Have a relationship conversation. Your nervous system's jacked. Your nervous system's like, someone's breaking into my house. I don't give a fuck about my feelings. That's what happens when we get triggered. Boom, this is great. How do you decipher from asking for what you need versus codependency? I am responsible for being okay in my own body as best I can. So are you. That is not dependent upon my partner being okay in the moment. If my partner's triggered and therefore I'm not okay, that's what we call codependency. If I'm constantly asking her, are you okay? Are you okay? And I don't give a fuck if she's okay. I want to know if she's okay so that I'm okay. The mountain, that analogy is when you go, yeah, you're allowed to be triggered. I'm okay. My life's great. I'm happy. I'm content. I'm this. I'm all the things. I'm not reliant upon her mood or his mood for me to be okay. So to really dive into your question just a little bit deeper, Boone, when you ask for your needs to be met, the actual act of asking upfront, conscious, is how you undo codependency. Codependency is covert. It's secretive. Codependent people don't have needs, right? Okay, beautiful. Any questions on this before I put you guys in a group real fast? If you do, please just unmute yourself because I can only see one of the screens. Beautiful. Okay, here's what we're going to do, guys. You guys are each going to do this for 3 minutes. I'm going to partner you, and you're just going to go through this as a mock exercise. It's like an acting audition. Hey, do you have space for a conversation? Beautiful. Don't worry. I'm not going to leave. I'm not mad at you. We're not breaking up. 3, I would love to talk about make something up or make something of your own issue. Work through the entire process. Ask the person at the end if there's anything they want to know more about or they want to share, and then swap. I'll swap you at the 3-minute mark. Good to go? Okay, let's do this because we still have a little bit more to get into. Oh, wow. Okay, hold tight. 1 sec, guys. Dave, I'm going to try. Dave, I'm not going to be able to, but I may just have you exit a room. Go. And if you guys, actually, some of you can have groups of 3. So we'll do this fast. It'll be, if you're in a group of 3, it's going to be 2 minutes each. Go. Dave, you can simply not join the room. Bam. That worked, huh?
I've got to go back because there was only 2 of us in the room.
Okay.
I'm going to put this in the chat so it's not recorded.
Okay. Or wait, what room were you in? Let me switch someone.
I was in 26.
Oh, it's not showing me. Okay. Who's in room 24? I'm going to move him to room 26.
Okay.
There. Oop. Nigel, join a room. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Please remind me of that at the end. My brother. Hold on one sec. Just so we're recording. If you unmute yourself, you want to chat.
Robbie and I were in a group of two, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I just pulled everybody out.
Oh, cool.
The breakout room deal is a little weird on this one. How was that?
Oh, good.
Yeah, huh? This goes back to my moderate raging against the Pythagorean theorem, because I would have loved if they, in geometry class, they were like, we're not going to talk about the Pythagorean theorem today because you'll never fucking use it, but here's how to have a hard conversation. Like, wow, amazing. Holy shit. My entire 20s are different. My entire 30s are different. My entire marriage would be different. Good, guys. Good. Let's let everybody stream back in. Yeah, this stuff is so simple in execution, but profound, right? And the question I asked was for guys who were done a little bit early, this isn't just a romantic conversation frame. This is every conversation frame, partnership, friendship. Like anytime something comes up that's challenging, you get to walk through these steps. And you realize once you start to do this, how obtuse and cumbersome and ineffective normal conversations feel, or normal sit downs. Like, oh, no wonder there's landmines going off all over the place, or people getting triggered, or people getting upset, etc. All right, we're still waiting for just a couple more guys to come back in. Yeah, right, Tony, for managing staff, for peers, for boss. Most of my friends at this point, this is how we will have conversations, especially if there's something that's, a little bit edgy or charged, anything that's charged. All right, I think we're waiting. All right, we should be pretty good. Well done, you guys. Well done. Again, this is a very simple one-off of a set of exercises that it's going to be a practice from now on, right? I felt emotionally seen for the first time in a long time. Brilliant. You're so welcome, guys. What are we combating here? Right? What are we not combating, maybe not the right term, but in conversation, what are the easiest things to happen when they go off track? People feel attacked. Right? How effective is a conversation with someone who feels attacked? When you're like, hey, I feel, and they're like, boom, they blow up. Defensiveness. What happens when people feel attacked? The walls go up instantly. I've done it. We do it. We still do it. Like it happens. How do you great question. Let me jump into that. How do we practice this with someone that has no idea to relate this way? You lead them. You say, hey, this is a different conversation piece than we've ever used before. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to give them the framework, right? There's no secrets to this. So we're working against attacked, defensiveness, shutdown. How many men do we know that instantly get shut down? How much of the complaint from the feminine or even from male partners is that men get shut down? No worry, Dave. How often do we get shut down or feel shut down? If I start to feel myself shutting down in a conversation, I'll say this, like, wait a minute. Something happened. I feel attacked, or I feel like my defenses came up. And so, guys, I want to make this last point before we switch gears. The goal of this is not to have perfect conversations, right? The goal of this is to not ever be triggered. That's for like Jesus and the Dalai Lama. I still get triggered as fuck. The goal is to get triggered and catch it fast. So as opposed to 2 weeks of fighting, it's 10 minutes of being upset. The goal is to catch it and then come back to the conversation calm. And we can go into fight or flight or your nervous system, but essentially it's how do you become responsible for your own nervous system? These are new ideas for a lot of us, but play with this. Great work. Okay, any last questions on this section before we move forward? Graham and I talked about Not a worry, Robert. Okay, go be with your kids, man. All right, so let's switch gears. I know this one we actually scheduled an extra 15 minutes. I want to talk about the next phase of this, which is sacred sexuality. And I also, before that, want to talk about this challenge. This month's challenge, guys. Anybody a CrossFitter? Anybody where's Andy Petronic? Still on this call? My first CrossFit coach is on this call. The reason I love CrossFit is it's scalable. Meaning, if the workout is like deadlift 350 pounds 5 times and I can't do that, I deadlift 150 pounds. If I can't deadlift at all because I got a bad back, I'm going to do push-ups. The goal, and I'm telling you this because the goal of this challenge and the goal of every challenge we do in the nation isn't about the challenge. It's about what you can bring to it and you being a part of it. Right? Anybody who's been in a CrossFit workout knows that the guy who's doing overhead squats with a piece of PVC pipe is celebrated as much as the guy deadlifting 500 pounds. So I want to say that about the frame of these challenges. Many of you aren't in a position with your partners, your spouses, or having a partner or a spouse to have a conversation about your desires. That's okay. Many of you in those relationships are like, we ain't having that conversation. We're just not there yet. That's okay. But how can you use the frame of what I just gave you to have a harder or have any conversation that leads to more intimacy? That's the goal. So let me just get that out of the way. Now, let's talk about if relationship is where we get wounded and how we can heal. Man, oh man, is the sexual arena exponentiated or exponential of that. Where do most people carry their shame? Sex, money, relationship, right? But so much of shame is around sex. So much of wounding is around sex. So much of disappointment and us not feeling whole, us not feeling powerful, us not feeling healed and complete is around sexuality. And if any of you are in a heterosexual relationship, it's 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold for women. Especially in the West. Well, I mean, let's say especially in the West. I'd say other cultures are even worse than the West, but in the West. So realize that 99, in what way? Gary, unmute yourself real quick, please, and ask that a little more fully.
You said like all the stuff that the men feel.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
Yeah, all the stuff that men are feeling, that it's tenfold for women. In what
Mhm.
way?
Think of how much shame we put on women or how much confusion and wounding there is for women around sexuality, right? If society looks at me and I'm like, hey, I banged 5 chicks last night, society's not going to be like, you're a fucking slut. If I go, hey guys, I didn't bang any chicks last night, society's not going to be like, you're a fucking prude. We manipulate women with shame around sexuality up and down and up and down and up and down. Where guys, it's a little less overt and it's a little more covert. So just know that. Plus, we often aren't, and I'm not diminishing male abuse. Most women have had multiple sexual traumas. Like overt sexual traumas. Like how many of you guys are worried about getting roofied? I have a friend who was roofied last weekend in a bar in Florida. 5 guys were walking her out the door before one guy came and was like, the fuck you guys are. That's never happened to me. So just realize that there's a lot of trauma as well with female sexuality. So if we use that same frame of the Jenga board, all of us have some sexual shame. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say all of us. At some point, we were laughed at, we were confused, we were afraid, we didn't have a great performance, we didn't get it up, we came too fast, something happened. So we have an opportunity to work on that bottom piece. We have an opportunity to also say, and this is where it's unique, to say, I have an archetype of not being seen, right? Of being disregarded, of being not heard. So what is a heightened place? What is a heightened emotional space for me to do that work? The sexuality space. I don't know about you guys, but it's pretty heightened energy in there. It's a little more intense than when I'm walking outside. So if I have a wound and I want to heal it, let's just say that's it. Like, say I have no control in my life. Like, I have a boss who's super domineering. I had a mother who was super domineering. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. They fired me and rehired me 4 times. I just got no fucking control in my life. What if I had control in the bedroom? What if I was able to enact with consent control? And that situation was now heightened because it's sex. It's not like, it's heightened. We're not eroticizing a wound. We'll get to that. What if it's just heightened, where I say to my partner, and we're going to go down the list in a second, but I'm going to swing forward, say, hey, I want to be in control of everything here. I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to lead. I'm going to make the decisions. Just as an example. And so for 45 minutes, I get a high dose of control. Does this make sense? Think of how that settles the part of me that feels out of control everywhere else. It's like a vitamin that's 100, like 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C as opposed to 10 milligrams of vitamin C. That's the opportunity of sacred sexuality, just to give you a frame. George, I'll get to your question at the end. Remind me, okay? Now, what does this require? In order to do this with a partner, which is most likely how you're going to want to do it, in order to be in this frame, it's going to take one word more so than any other. Trust. Trust, 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 trust. Safety, 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 safety. Because, and then let's say word 3, consciousness. What I need to go into this relationship knowing this is how I want to play. This is what I want to experience. This is the flavor that I want to bring, which is usually based off of, if I have an excess of something in my life, I want to bring it down. If I'm deficient in some area in my life, I want to bring it up. Right? Homeostasis is what we seek. Who was on the call? Was it 3 months ago with the female sex therapist? George, you remember that? What was her name? Anybody on that call where she's like, you're either filling in blanks or you're turning down excesses. You don't have control, so you want control. You have too much control, Celeste Hirschman. Thank you. You have too much control of your life, so you want to surrender. If anybody's spent time in the kink world or the BDSM world as a man, what you most often run into is women who, single mom, 3 kids, has her own company, has to be in the masculine frame all day, making decisions, leading, telling people what to do. All she wants to fucking do is relax, let go, and have someone else take control for those 45 minutes. She doesn't want it in her day-to-day life. Thus why you will have someone who's super dominant act out the role of a submissive. Does that make sense? Can you guys see how that would be of benefit? Can you see how that would be medicine? Can you see how that would be helpful for her? And the her can be a him here. It doesn't matter. It's why you also get the other archetype, the male CEO, right? How many politicians do we know who are like, wow, they found him tied to a bed with some woman shoving stuff in his butt. And you're like, what do you know? You're the guy who's in control all day. You're the guy who's telling people what to do all day. So that's the basic frame. The basic frame of sacred sexuality is, just like conscious relating, I want to use my relationship to heal, grow, and transform. The frame of sacred sexuality is I want to use what we do in the bedroom with a partner, with multiple partners, to heal, grow, and transform. Absolutely, Kyle. A huge issue in society's lens that makes these things depraved. Fuck society's lens. They're allowed to be civilized all they want. Look at the civilized sex life. Look at the civilized sex world. Anybody remember when Janet Jackson's nipple was on the Super Bowl? And the entire country, like, we melted. And I imagine if we looked at the numbers, there was like $3 trillion spent on porn that month. And porn's free. That means that's like the 3 trillion was the tip of the iceberg. Kink, spanking, dominance, submission, surrender, all of this has just been moved out of the DSM in the last like 5 years. And the DSM, if you guys don't know, is the psychology book of like what are legitimate issues. So 5 years ago, if you were like, hey, I want my partner to spank me, they're like, here's a therapist card. Now they're like, beautiful. That's a normal human thing. Go run with it. So I'm going to ask you guys if this is, and again, this is just the teaser because Steph's going to dive into this in a couple days or a couple weeks. Ask yourself this question. What do I want to accentuate more in my life? Leadership, surrender, depth, control, lack of control, sensitivity, sensuality, aggression, connection. Beautiful. If I were to say to you, you're going to create a 2-person play. Clothes are going to stay on. It's not sexual. How would you accentuate what you want? Would you be like, oh, you guys want to see something? How would you like? Would you want to be the king? Huh? See that? Guys in my men's group made me wear this for a week because I was like, I want to feel more like a king. How would you do that? What role playing would you do in this play? Think about that just for a minute. Now, question 2. What if this play went from PG to PG-13 to PG-17 to rated R to rated X with a willing partner? Then what would you do? I would wear this in the bedroom. And I would have her call me the king. And then I'd have to act kingly. This may or may not have been worn in my bedroom a lot. Keep it on. Yeah. Or be Joffrey, right? I'd have her call me Lord. Oh boy. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Actually, awesome. Because here's what do we say? Trust, safety, consciousness, consciousness. Number 3, consent. And consent, guys, is a mile wide. Consent just isn't like, it's cool if I stick my dick in you, right? Consent is an actual conscious conversation from start to finish. Consent is a negotiation. Yes, safe, sane, consensual. Question, Gary? There's just a question mark. Oop.
It's cool if I unmute myself.
Yeah, please.
Good question. All right, so you're talking about like consent from the beginning throughout the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get that consent without like taking away from the moment, you know?
Beautiful question. So this is a different frame. We're going to go the old way is that there needs to be surprises and there needs to be like mystery for there to be a heightened energy. The new frame is we're actually using this sexual experience for a specific purpose. And so what you're getting consent for are the ingredients. Then once I have the ingredients, or once the partner, whoever's leading this, has the ingredients, then they mix and match the ingredients. So not only does it not take away, it's actually heightens it, in my experience, in my opinion, right? Because what does it let us do? It lets us know, my nervous system relaxes knowing what I can do and what I can't do. And then it's my sense of creativity, artistry, play, fun to mix all of that and to feel, wow, that's it. She's not reacting to that. Let me change. Ooh, she's really reacting to that. Let me heighten this. Let me now become a chef. Fuck yeah, here's a little appetizer. You like that? Ooh, that was a little too spicy. Sorry, here's a little bit of something. Here's a little bit of milk. Oh, and there we go. So in the scenario that we just came up with, trust, safety, consent, consciousness. In the scenario that we just came up with, how would you, and we're just gonna do this mentally, and you guys okay if we go a little long? I know Dave said we'd cut this off at 10:15. Okay. How would you ask a partner to play that out with you? Just take a moment. Okay, I really want to wear the king hat. I want you to call me the king. What else could you do in there? What do you want to get out of it? And even better, how would you ask your partner, hey, if I want to be a king in this scenario, what would be most nourishing to you? Do you want to be the sacred slut? Yeah. Do you want to be the peasant? Right? The beauty of the sacred sexuality, and I'll even say the BDSM world, is that there's no shame. Think about that. There's no shame in that world. Every archetype is allowed. Right? Women get to say, I want to be the slut. Guys get to be a prostitute. You get to be the king. You get to be a slave. You get to be the whatever it is. There's no shame. Imagine that. We're getting there, Trim. In consent is the safe word. And that's like, you know what? This is too much. I got to take the king hat. Like it's freaking me out. It's too intense. Like red, rhinoceros, popcorn. And that's boom. The act, the play stops. Whether that's 5 seconds in or you are just about to fucking blow your load and you're like, stop. Game over. Everything's game over immediately. So there is a wheel of consent. The way I was taught and the way I like to use is green, yellow, red. Green, they don't really say anything. You're feeling it. Yellow is like, ooh, especially when there's pain involved, maybe a little bit too much. Red, we stop. And thank you, Ryan. What's negotiated beforehand in the conversation, hippopotamus, love it, is aftercare. So let's put this, does this all make sense? I know we're going fast here. Everybody keeping up with this? Think about an entire negotiation. Here's why I'm here. Here's what I want to do. Does that work for you? What are the no-goes for you? What are the deal breakers? What are the do not do's no matter what? What are the sort ofs, but it may tweak me, so you'll have to pay attentions? Cool. And at the end, how do we go from role playing back to regular, back to normal, back to a nervous system that's not heightened together? What do you need at the end of this? What is civilized aftercare? The dude falls asleep. Essentially. That's like the most common, right? Like dude rolls over, falls asleep. What if you specifically asked your partner, you want to blow a woman's mind? Ask her this question. What do you need after sex to have your nervous system come down and feel whole and complete? They'll probably go like this. Because no one's ever asked them. I've had partners that wanted food. Like, you know what I'd love if we just had a little bit of chocolate and strawberry on the side of the bed because my blood sugar goes weird. Especially, this is really important, guys, if it's more intense And especially if there's pain involved, when different hormones get released. I've had a partner once say, I just want you to hold my head and cover my ear. And again, there's no shame in this, right? So I don't give a fuck what it is. I'm never going to be like, you want me to hold your ear? God, you're weird. Like, you want me to hold your ear? You weirdo. No, it's 0. Whatever it is. And guys, this is really important. You have aftercare. Because I might be like, wow, that was really risky of me emotionally to show you this. And so I'm going to take this off. And I just want you to sit with me for a bit and remind me that it's okay, that like I'm playing with this king thing. You may need to hold me for a minute. That all makes sense. Do you see how it's just a continuation of the conscious relationship? Do you see how valuable this tool would be in your toolbox of sexuality? And let me say that doesn't mean that you're not like, hey, the kids are asleep. We have 3 minutes. Let's bang one out. That doesn't happen. That now like all of your sex life is like, let's negotiate. Let's do this. Right? There's specific times and specific places for this. Usually with a specific partner. Or someone that you're specifically playing with to do this. It's so important. Male sexuality is not talked about. Love you, Garrett. It's just not talked about. We are assumed by the civilized world to just be these mutant animals. We just want to fucking rub our dicks on things, release, and fall asleep. But there's such a depth to this. When I asked, you guys all know Connor Beaton. He and I had very similar stories of coming into this work, and both have said that dealing with and healing sexual shame was the biggest part of our actualization. The biggest. So play with this. Think about it. Ask yourself, how could you change your sex life to make it a little bit different? How could you use it? All right. And then follow that same frame. I don't want to keep you guys on this call any longer.
Real quick, Trevor.
Yeah.
Just wanted to chime in on the challenge side for guys. Like, if you can't have a conscious conversation with your partner currently, like, we're not diving into this yet. Like,
Exactly.
go back to the drawing board with the single guy challenge. You need to be able to understand and own your thoughts, desires, feelings around these situations and your own sexual ideas and fantasies before you then take it in to have the conversation about what you're going to do in the bedroom. So if you can't write it down in a journal, write down your sexual fantasy, you can't share it yet with your partner. So write it down, hold on to it for a week, go back, read it again, make sure that's what you like, what you feel. If you can't get it out on paper yet without like wanting to vomit, we got some work to do before we can then get into the conversation with the partner and how to have it. And the second thing, and I'll hand it back to Trevor, is that there is so much shame. We've talked a lot about shame on this call. And I want to go back to something we've talked about a bunch of times, but permission, right? Give yourself permission to feel this stuff and to explore it because like somebody wrote in the Nation, like just putting it in my notebook makes me want to vomit because somebody else might read it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to give yourself the space. Okay, right. It was Robbie. Thank you, Robbie, for owning that. Give yourself the space to explore this in a safe way. And if you need to write it down and then go fucking burn it to make sure that nobody reads it the first time, then do it. But it needs to come out of your head and go somewhere, so it doesn't come out sideways, as we always like to say.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Great points. I appreciate you chiming in on that. And to back up what he said, if you are having a hard time sitting down with your partner talking about taxes, then maybe we don't jump to, and I really want your tongue in my butt. Right? So we practice this on the stuff that isn't so highly charged. Practice this. Get good at it. Get good at the conversation. And as Dave said, look in the mirror and say, whatever it is, as long as it's legal, and we are talking about legal adults here, whatever it is about your desire, just own that too. And realize that you live in a world that wants to shame you, that wants to control you, that wants to make you feel less than so they can tell you what to do. If you don't see the hypocrisy that is so rampant around sexuality, I'll just speak to the West, like just blatant hypocrisy, then look a little bit harder. And then take a look at what would America look like if everybody was having empowered sex? How much shit wouldn't get sold? Right? Especially for women, but for us too. If guys were like, man, I am just having mind-blowing sex with my partner, what industries would fail today? Think about that. All right, guys, I really appreciate how many, porn. I really appreciate how many of you showed up and how you all showed up. This is edgy stuff. We had a couple guys drop out this month because this challenge. They're just like, I can't do it, I'm out. I was like, okay, look at the trigger. That's huge. That means there's so much juice in this area. So thank you for showing up. 25th, Steph's coming on. He's going to dive into this a little more. And I have office hours coming up too, where we can talk more about this. This is a powerful, powerful month. All right, go crush your focus.
I'll be on Friday as well for people who need to talk about this challenge a little bit more. Friday at noon Eastern.
Love you guys. Really appreciate you. Cheers. Dave, can you hang on for a sec? Okay.